Hey guys, it's Sarah, and today I'm going to talk about all the books that I read in the month of September. I read 9 books, which was pretty good, and I started out the month thinking it was going to be a little bit of a slower month, but then Contemporary-a-thon hit, and that's where I read at least half the books that I read this month, so it was good. It was a good month. All right, let's go ahead and get into it because I have a lot to talk about. I started out the month reading my most anticipated book of this year, and that is Pieces of Her by Karen Slaughter. I loved this. I really, really did. This book I went into with a little bit of caution because I've been hearing some not so great things about it, or just this is not typical Karen Slaughter. It's not as good as her, other two standalones with Pretty Girls and The Good Daughter, and those are the only other 2 I've read. But I really enjoyed this. It was different. It's not as gruesome as the other 2 were, for sure, but I really enjoyed it. I liked the dual timeline that we had going on, and you kind of see you're unraveling things as this is going along with the characters, and I just loved that. It took a couple twists I didn't see coming, which I really loved as well, and yeah, I just really liked it. It definitely is not as gruesome or as, kind of punch you in the face as some of her other books that I've read, but I still really, really enjoyed it. She knows how to keep me guessing, for sure. So I gave this one 5 stars. I was a little on the fence about 5 or 4, but then the ending solidified the 5 for me. I love the way that this ended. And yeah, so loved it. And then I finished up a book that I had started in August, and that is Night Road by Kristen Hanna. And this is a book that was sent to me by Lindsay from Lindsay's Little Library. We did the book swap-a-thon together, and one of those prompts was you were supposed to swap a book, and this is the one that she sent to me. So I did start this during that readathon. I didn't quite finish it up, and it took me a little bit to finish this because it took me a little bit to get to a point where I didn't want to put it down. It took a while. Once I got to that point, it went really quickly, and I finished up pretty early in the month. But this book is more of a young adult book, and it follows 3 teenagers, and 2 of them are twins, a boy and a girl, and then the 3rd girl comes in and she is friends or best friends with the girl twin, and then she ends up falling in love and being the girlfriend of the boy twin. These twins have a very interesting mother. Very interesting. And you kind of see their relationships happening. You see some of the consequences of the way that they're being raised, and a tragedy happens. Something happens to these 3 teenagers that changes the course of everybody's life forever, no doubt. And then you see how everybody deals with that, including the mom. And it was very interesting. I really, really liked it. It kept me guessing a little bit because I wasn't sure how things were going to pan out. I wasn't sure what the tragedy was going to be because I knew there was going to be something. I was like, this is too good. Something's going to happen. And then something did. And yeah, some things happened in here that I wasn't expecting. So that was good. But I did overall really like this, and I gave it 4 stars. The next book that I finished is a book that I did a buddy read with Steffi. And she is on BookTube, so I will leave a link down to her channel down below. And we read The Clan of the Cave Bear by Jean M. Auel. And this book is also on the Great American Reads list. So I was able to check off one of those books this month. So that was exciting. Okay, this book. How do I describe this? This literally follows cave people. Like that point in time. Like cave people. And kind of the beginnings of civilization, basically. So you're following this young girl named Ayla. She gets separated from her family. Ayla is white. Let's just go ahead and put that out there. Ayla is white. She has bleach blonde hair. She's white. Like, I don't know how else to describe her because that's really how she's described in this book. She is separated from her family during an earthquake, so she's kind of on her own. She stumbles across a stream one day while she's just trying to live, basically, and she falls asleep. And then a tribe is walking by on their travels, and they see her and try to help her because she pretty much looks like she's dying. So they basically save her. Now, it's raining. Can you hear it? I wonder if you can hear that. It's been raining off and on all week, but it was raining now. So for Ayla, she wakes up and is surrounded by all these people she doesn't know, but they really take her in and she becomes a part of their tribe. She becomes a part of their lives. And it's very interesting because they know that she's different and she knows that she's different. She doesn't look like them. And they call her a part of the others, which I guess is white people. And yeah, it's very, very interesting. So you see what she goes through. And this also deals a lot with the way women are treated. And I had to kind of separate myself from, okay, this is not in 2018. This is in like prehistoric times, basically, you know, caveman times. So yeah, they did things a lot differently back then, obviously. Like women couldn't even talk to men without being acknowledged first, and women could not hunt. They weren't allowed to be hunters, and they couldn't even pick up a weapon without getting, you know, crucified, basically, even to the point of getting cursed with death if they even held a weapon. So yeah, I had to kind of like, okay, this back then, it's not like this anymore. Okay, everything's fine. But that aspect of it also helped the story for me because it gave me those feelings. It gave me those like, this is not right type stuff. But yeah, so this one, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. It was a little bit of a slower read because it's not super action-packed. Like there wasn't, you know, this is caveman times. There's not a lot going on, you know, but what they are going through is really hard. And, you know, just seeing them try to feed themselves is hard. I loved the characters. The characters were so fantastic. And, you know, there were a couple times that, you know, made me tear up a little bit. And there was one pretty brutal scene in here involving Ayla that I was on the treadmill listening to it and trying not to cry on the treadmill in the middle of the gym. But it was hard. It was hard to listen to. There's a villain in here that is awful. He is awful and he hates Ayla with a fiery passion. And a lot of the anger comes from him. Like a lot of what you feel the anger towards is because of him. And it was just relentless. It was crazy. So the way that this ended, I'm definitely going to continue with the series. I don't know when. I don't think I'm going to jump in right now, but I do eventually want to continue and read this. But I really enjoyed it. Surprisingly, I did not think I was going to enjoy it as much as I did. And I gave it a 4 stars. The next book that I read is actually the book that you guys picked for us on our book list Thursday for me and Lindsay. And we read What Alice Forgot by Liane Moriarty. And oh my goodness, did I love this book. I do have a reading vlog up for this, so I'll have that link down below if you guys haven't seen that and you want to check it out. But this book was amazing. I loved Alice. I loved going along with her on the journey and trying to figure out what had happened in the last 10 years that she missed. Basically, this follows Alice, who wakes up on the middle of a gym floor, and she has lost the last 10 years of her memory. So she thinks it's 10 years earlier than what it actually is. And it's hard because she has 3 kids that she doesn't know. And she is thinking she's happily married to her husband, but they're actually in the middle of a divorce. And she doesn't remember any of this. She doesn't remember anything of what happened. She doesn't remember giving birth to her children. And so you go along with her on the journey trying to figure out where she fits into her own life. And, you know, just trying to figure out what happened to get us to this point, you know? So very good. I loved every second of it. It made me laugh. It made me angry. It made me just really feel for these people. And I thought it was fantastic. I absolutely loved it. Leanne's writing is so great and I can't wait to read more for her. And I gave this one 5 stars. And then I participated in Contemporary-a-thon, so I do have a reading vlog up for that as well, so I will leave that link down below too if you guys want to see kind of more in-depth feelings on some of these books. I talk a little bit more in depth about them, but to quickly recap, the first one that I read is Safely Home by Randy Alcorn. This was also on my birthday reading project, and this is a Christian fiction book that follows a Chinese man who is a Christian, and it is actually illegal to be Christian in China, but he does it anyway. And you see him deal with trying to be able to practice his faith and not die at the same time. And this one was heartbreaking. A lot of things happened I was not expecting at all. And yeah, so it was really good. I really enjoyed it and I gave it 4 stars. And then I picked up The Life She Was Given by Ella Marie Wiseman, and I go on and on about this book in that reading vlog because I loved every single word in here. This is one of my favorite books of the entire year so far. It will definitely be on my top of this year, and I absolutely loved it. So this book follows a young girl named Lily, and she is born an albino. Her parents are very ashamed of this. This happens in 1931, I believe, and her mother ends up selling her to the circus because she can't handle her daughter being this way. And you see Lily going through living in the circus and what she has to deal with. Everything is awful. It's so heartbreaking what she has been put through. The people of the circus, the leaders of the circus, are awful to her and to everybody. But then she also makes, some of her best friends of her entire life through the circus too. So it's kind of, one of those things. You also follow 25 years later, and there's a girl named Julia who was born to the same parents as Lily, and she is born normal. So you see her deal with the parents, with their deaths because they have died. So she inherits their estate, and she is at the house kind of learning a little bit more about her parents through just being in the house by herself and discovering things. And she ends up finding out about Lily because she never knew that she had an older sister. And so you kind of see her unravel all this stuff and deal with that. Loved it. I loved it so, so much. This had one of the most beautiful scenes I've ever read in a book ever. And it involves elephants, and it's beautiful, and I loved it so much. And yeah, so I go on and on about this in my reading vlog if you're interested in a little bit more about how I feel about it, but total 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. And this is definitely one of the best books I've read this year, and a very big contender for like one of my favorites ever. And then I picked up The Vanishing by Wendy Webb, and this one was also on my birthday reading project, so was The Life She Was Given. But this one follows a woman whose husband has killed himself, and she found out that he was not who she thought he was. He was basically a Bernie Madoff, and he was embezzling money from his clients to, live his life. And so she's dealing with the aftermath of that. It's not very good. And she ends up getting a job offer from somebody who says, my mother is ailing. She's kind of older. She needs a companion to live at the house with her full time, and just kind of keep her company and, things like that. So she takes him up on it because she doesn't really have any other options. She finds out that his mother is a very famous writer that she has always looked up to. And so she goes to live at this house, and a lot of weird things start happening. A lot of weird things. And it's kind of a ghost story-ish, I would say. Like, there's some spirits happening and things like that. She's involved in it a lot more than she ever thought she was, which is very interesting too. But I enjoyed it. It wasn't anything, spectacular, but I still enjoyed it. I really liked the characters. I really liked Drew. He was my favorite. And yeah, so I gave it 3 stars. And then I picked up another book that is on my birthday reading project, and that was On the Island. I read this one on my Kindle, and this is by Tracy Garvis Graves. This follows a 30-year-old teacher and a 16-year-old student. And the 16-year-old student has just been in recovery from lymphoma, I believe, and he missed a lot of school because of that, because of his treatments and stuff. So he was very behind in school. His parents decided, we're going to go to our vacation home in the Maldives, and for the summer, we're going to bring in a tutor, and she's going to get you caught up to where you need to be to start school next year. And so they hire this woman to be his tutor. So she takes the job opportunity. She, it's like, I could use the break from my regular life, and, I'm going to go and do this. So they are traveling to the island, and it's just her and him together, and the plane goes down, and they end up on a deserted island, like completely deserted. Nothing is living on this island, and it's just them. And they are never really rescued. They think, well, the next time a plane comes, we'll get their attention, and, we'll be rescued and everything will be fine. Nope, they're on that island for 3 years. So you see them basically surviving, and also forming a relationship. So it was really, really well done. I really enjoyed it. I thought she handled the storyline of the teacher-student relationship really well, and it wasn't something that just happened to cause shock, or it wasn't something that happened to be, you know, to cause the drama and stuff. It was really, really well done. I really appreciated the way that she did it. And you also see them when they do get rescued, you see them going home and, you know, like they missed 9/11 because I think he made a phone call to his dad, and his dad said, well, travel might be a little harder because of 9/11. And he was like, what's that? What does that mean? Like they missed all that, you know, just thinking about the time frame and, you know, how much they missed in 3 years. You miss a lot in 3 years. Like it's crazy. And so you see them kind of coming back into their lives and seeing, you know, how they're kind of getting back into it. So it was so good. And again, I thought it was really, really well done. I enjoyed it immensely. I could not put it down, and I gave it 5 stars. And the last book that I finished in the month of September was actually also on my birthday reading project. It is a reread for me though. I read this book a very long time ago, I think before I even had my first daughter. So she's 10. So it's been at least 10 years since I've read this. And when it popped up as a suggestion, I went ahead and jumped on it because I just really wanted to read it again. It's been on my mind. And I'm really happy that I did. I ended up listening to the audiobook of it this time because it is a reread for me, but I enjoyed it so much. And that is The Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett. I loved this. And it's so funny because everybody who has read this says this should not have been this good. It should not have been this good. This is about Masons building cathedrals. That's basically the premise of this. It should not have been as good as it was. That sounds so boring. Like it's so funny that like how good this is. It really truly is. Because this is in the 1100s. Like there's no drama going on and blah, blah, blah. Oh yeah, there is. Yeah, there is. There is drama. And a lot of it has to surround the church. Like, And, okay. So we follow a man named Tom Builder, who is a Mason, and he is trying to basically, his dream has always been to build a cathedral of his own, like one that's his, that he designed and that he brought to life, and he hires the people and gets everyone going, and, you know, it comes, you know, it gets built under his instruction basically. And so you follow him and his family, and they're traveling, and, you know, traveling in those days, you had to walk everywhere, and it was hard, and you had to fight the elements, and, you know, you never knew where some of your food was going to come from sometimes. So that was also like a big thing. Childbirth happens, and, you know, not everyone survives that. And, yeah, just, it was so good. Like, I can't go into too much detail because I don't want to give anything away, but I'm telling you, if you're scared of this book, don't be. It is so good. It kept me engaged the entire time I read it. It did take me a while because this is almost 1,000 pages, but I loved it so much. And I ended up giving it 5 stars. Like, this is really, really worth the read. It really is. There is a villain in here named William who is like the worst. He is so bad, you guys. Oh my gosh, he's awful. But he brings a lot of tension, you know, and a lot of, every time he shows up, you're like, oh no, what now? What's going to happen now? And something happens. But yeah, I loved it. I loved it so much. Highly recommend it all the time. Even though it's one of the biggest books I've read in a really long time, I loved it so much. It was great. And the audiobook is really good. So if you think that would help you get through it, definitely listen to the audiobook. All right, guys, that is it. Those are the 9 books that I read in the month of September, and 5 of them were for my birthday reading project, so that's exciting. And I loved just about everything that I read. I only had 1 3-star. Everything else was 4 and 5 stars. I had 5 5-star books this month. That is huge. That's huge. All right, guys, leave me a comment down below. Let me know if you've read any of these and what your thoughts were on them. Let me know what your favorite book in September was, and I will talk to you guys again soon. Have a great day. Bye.